Set it on, fast in the melon. If I ever lose, set it on, bigger and better. Hidden roller coaster come bigger, bolder, faster. Boom, I'm going to the maximum. I'm going to the maximum. I'm going to the maximum.
The likelihood is if we had this talk last year, the audience might have been a little bit higher than maybe it will be as we close out 2022. Certainly interest in NFTs, I think it's fair to say, has dropped off substantially. Bloomberg said, I think in September, trading volumes were down 97% from their peak. In January, of course, there's been big cost-cutting measures at Metaverse, 11,000 jobs. Things have taken a bit of a step back. We've seen big hacks, Ronin Bridge, of course, hitting places like the Philippines, particularly hard places where we've seen a lot of play to earn, Axie Infinity, etc. But we build in bear markets, right, guys?
That's right. We build.
We build in bear markets. So hopefully we're going to find out a little bit about that building and how to build and maybe what to build, I think, hopefully, through this chat. So welcome to Paul, Jin, and to Mohammed. Jin, let's start with you and Genesis Arc and what's going on there. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what the thinking was behind the model? Presumably, collectibles is still where you see most of the NFT market right now, so.
Yeah, so, you guys hear me? Yeah, so for us, Genesis Arc is the parent company. Cambotica is the project that we launched. And for us, we identified very clearly that brand and IP is going to be really critical in this. So we've been building content, story, and developing all the artwork and really creating more of a brand presence. Ours is really from a family-friendly demographic as well. So we are really identifying some areas in which NFTs have been kind of pigeonholed a little bit or are focused on certain ways. But I think across the industry, we're all trying to understand actually from a business model perspective how to really make it happen. One of the things that we're really identified is working between Web3 and Web2 and being able to create those collaborations and partnerships. I think we've seen that those have been the most successful ones. I would say Nike and Artifact is probably the premier version with their Clone X. They've really been, killing it, nailing it out of the park recently. But when it comes to, at least in the U.S. market, predominantly when I got started, it was really for a very tight band of like 25, 35-year-old white male American marketplace. Very limited. So when we started I have kids, so anything I do essentially is for my kids eventually. And so my kids were like, print me a Pokemon PDF so I can color. So that's kind of the thinking behind it, is that how do we take a Web3 or a Web2 or a brand and use the Web3 community ownership, creatorship into that and discover where that goes. So that's kind of our primary focus for now.
So you were approaching it from a technology point of view, perhaps more than from a digital art point of view. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, digital art exists. The Web3 technology, blockchain technology is the game changer, right? So
yeah. I think that's fair to say, Mohammed, that's also where you're coming from, right? I mean, I think Pentas, on your website, you say you're focused on bridging and highlighting culture and heritage through art, and blockchain has really helped you take it to that next level.
Yes, but I couldn't help to share how we started and where we came from, because we were born during a pandemic, which is not just that, to make matters worse, we were born during a lockdown. That means you literally cannot leave your house. So when that happened, you know how big or impactful it has been to the community, to the whole society, especially those who earn daily, by daily earning or weekly earning. So when we deploy this, of course, the first, whoever that getting the most opportunity out of it is graphic artists. They know how to transfer whatever that they're doing into NFT, and they know what to do. And then slowly, because of it's a community movement as well, it sort of like getting support from the artist, the singer. So when they tweet about it, right, even if you don't know what this is, you definitely check it out, So when you have this check it out, you have a business owner started to, what is this? What Pentas is first, obviously. And then they know who we are. Then they think, how can we integrate whatever that we are already doing, So they started off like membership/access through their spin-off of their NFT collection, So that's how we build this. This is how we help and assist the community to integrate and to utilize it even further.
Yeah, it sounds quite organic. I think, is that fair to
very.
say? Yeah,
we have a strong organic community, which I'm very proud of. We've been around for 14 months. We don't even pay a single cent for any sort of advertising.
Paul, your newsletter is called F Around and Find Out, which sounds suspiciously like Mohammed's business model there. If that is how people have come into building NFT businesses, is that how we should continue to look at approaching them as we go ahead?
I don't really have the right answer, but you get to like mess around and tinker around and you eventually find out. But yeah, the newsletter was really meant to share just business insights, just enthusiasm in my adventure in Web3. And you know, I'm also dancing between Web2 and Web3 right now. My Web2 life, I'm a franchise developer. I've had the privilege of opening 1,000 restaurants around the world, whether through myself or through clients. And I'm spending a lot of time sharing with them about how blockchain technology is going to either you can happen to technology or have technology happen to you, and there's a lot of inefficiencies that can solve. But yeah, the newsletter was pretty much just my exploration, and it ended up leading to a lot of clients, a lot of questions about NFTs and blockchain. So yeah, I guess I'm finding out.
Well, I'd love to talk about the restaurants thing. I mean, Forrester predicted that in 2023, brands will be moving from this sort of cool BAYC type business model ahead into something that looks more like a loyalty type program. Is that a model that you think is going to get more popular?
I think it's a Trojan horse, right? Just like JPEGs are like a Trojan horse. I think people spend too much
in a good way.
In a good way. No, they focus too much on the speculative part and just like the fact that it's a JPEG, but it's just so much more to it, right? So yeah, loyalty is a perfect example. Right now, people have stamp cards as a way to build loyalty. You don't really truly know who's been a fan since day one. You don't really know who purchases 5 days a week. You don't know who's been referring people. Blockchain unlocks a wealth of that kind of data. And you mentioned earlier about a white male, age 30, that's not really helpful data. Now you actually get to look into a wallet and see what else have they bought. Oh my gosh, they also buy this and that. You get to see their actual buying habits, what they actually spend money on. And you can actually cater your loyalty to that. And not only that, there's also you know how there's communities of people who are first-time customers and people who are loyal customers. They don't want to be in the same room together, and you can't niche out a marketing campaign for them. You need to segregate each one and cater a message to each one, and you can do that with blockchain now.
Jin, Paul just mentioned the word community there. When you look at things like Bored Ape Yacht Club, that very much seems to be the driving force for a lot of engagement in NFT culture, still being part of a community, seeing yourself as a BAYC member or a Genesis Art member. How do you continue to capitalize on that beyond just being able to target people, as Paul just mentioned?
So the phenomenon of community, which is such a jargon term today in the Web3 space, it's actually about community, right? So when I first joined BAYC right after they sold out, it wasn't the sellout or even the whole build up to Justin Bieber and Jimmy Fallon. It actually happened even before in the Discord. The seed and the roots of the community was born there. The conceptualization of the founders was as a membership token that are given the commercial IP rights was instrumental and fundamental and innovative in a way that had never happened before. You throw in the Web3 technology and the blockchain technology to be able to track, to be authenticated, all those things. It brought a very human, sociological, behavioral element backed by technology. And this is where you're talking about, you can understand human behaviors in a way that we've never had access to. So I still believe that community will definitely be the driver. And someone was mentioning that it's not influencers necessarily, but it's community leaders that perhaps are going to be the influencers. But primarily communities are going to be really the drivers of branding, business, and business models moving forward.
So give us an idea of where your community is right now. What sort of state is it in as we close out 2022 compared to, say, at the end of 2021?
So I would say that first, staying with us through crypto winter and all the craziness, it says someone about who is still in the community, for one thing. Who believes in Web3, who's part of the community and actively engaged, not there to flip. So I think based on that, because of the demographic we're targeting, a family-friendly audience, the character that we have is cute, it's got tech, and there's the story. It hits many demographics all across the board. That's why we're actually, half our holders are in Korea, and half our holders are in the US market. So you can see that there is an interest in a baseline of where success can really penetrate through. Again, going from a branding experience, where do people respond? Take the brand, put the community, put those two together. That's something I think is going to be a huge, huge opportunity for many brands to explore.
Mohammed, when you're looking at what we're in store for next year, and it looks like maybe the crypto winter could continue for some time yet. Thanks a lot for that, Sam Bankman-Fried. What is it that you see as your biggest challenges? Is it about IP? Is it about driving new designs, new arts? Or is there innovations, do you think, in the way in which you can go about growing community, in the ways which you could begin to structure what you're doing with your business?
I think mainly there are two things. One is regulation, obviously, and secondly is the adoption rate. Because I didn't mention yesterday's, Internet was founded in 1983, and it took 22 years for it to reach 1 billion users in 2005. So technically, blockchain was founded, if we trace based on BTC, it's 13 years now, right now?
Yep. It's a teenager officially, I think, yeah.
Precisely. For me, these are two things that we need to look at in order to anticipate or to give a projection how this is going to turn out to be. We were so fortunate that we were based in Malaysia and Southeast Asia, although it's still not regulated yet, but we were allowed to operate because the way the authorities see us, we are not yet a security as per their viewing, you know. So for us, we just keep on focusing on advocacy, because from advocacy, you'll onboard people. From onboarding, you will have more user. You know, that's why we work very hard with the higher learning institution. Like we just, actually next week, we have a film festival in Malaysia. They are a sanctioned body that we are partnering up with. So we are opening into a film production line, directorship. So that's how we move. Because if you have all these so-called big boys toying with your product or your brand name or tag that I mean, we don't own the tag, obviously, but as long as if everyone start talking about NFT, especially if you are someone with a higher position, I mean, naturally, that's how things get the domino effects, you know.
It's funny, like both you and Jin there just seem to have sort of suggested that actually these big endorsements, the celebrities, the Jimmy Fallons and the Justin Biebers getting on board with things is actually the opposite of maybe where things should be headed. One thing that has come up continually this week from conversations that we at Forecast have been having and having here at Blockchain Week and elsewhere is this issue of trust. How do you build trust using NFTs now as a business, when people have seen the market come from those giddy heights of 2021 and the early part of last year down to where it is now, when people have spent their hard-earned, in some cases, checks that they've got in the mail from the government on NFTs and then seen the values plummet? How do we begin to build that trust back up in a way that's going to help people grow their businesses as well as engage with the community? Paul.
Well, so I can talk about it from two angles. The first one is, again, I think it's more like just communicating with your community every single day. I think if there's consistency on communicating and just reminding people that whatever's happening out there in the media, and of course the media does get things wrong sometimes, and to know that we're here as locals, not tourists. Tourists come when it's like the weather's good and when things are like the peak season, but then they go away when things are bad. And then there's locals who know how to maneuver the ups and downs, the intricacies. And so as long as you're communicating regularly, your NFT actually has a use case that creates massive fans. You've actually made them desensitized to what's happening out there. The volume on OpenSea is down, but by the way, I'm able to support my favorite artist and I get to connect with them. Or I'm actually using this NFT in order to build my loyalty. It doesn't even matter what's happening in the news because I'm actually getting true benefit every single day. And the founders are communicating with me every single day. So, and then there's the trust factor as far as technology. You can always point to the ledger, so that eliminates, I guess, that bottleneck that was previously there.
Does it? I mean, I don't know. Maybe people feel that they have lost trust in blockchain and everything that it represents.
I think it's just education, because when at the FTX collapse happened, there was some Twitter influencers that came on and just reminded people that, you know, what FTX stood for is not decentralization. It's a central exchange. You change your money there, and then you get the F out. You need to go put it back into your MetaMask wallet, where you actually have full control of it. That people just got sloppy and maybe some lazy, or they overly dependent. We talked about this earlier. They got overly dependent on centralized ideals, but it just takes some education and just some reminders, and I think that's how you solve it.
Yeah, Jin, when we look at the user experience of NFTs in general, it's still not streamlined, let's say, is it? It's still a tricky thing for people to do. People have to educate themselves when they go about trying to purchase them, especially if they haven't done that before. Do you see the technology as a barrier to what you're trying to do?
Do we see the technology as?
A barrier.
Yes. Right now, across the board, the biggest issue we have uniformly is the wallet. For me to get to NFTs, I have to go through crypto wallets and then possibly to NFT and then my project. It's like crazy. So technology certainly is a barrier, but in the same way, technology is solvable, right? It's not something that we can't solve for. And I think this is where the trust factor, just going back to that point, is that's going to be so critical for us, in that trust is hard-earned and easily lost, right? And trust has to be earned in the way that every human learns trust. It's through time, it's through keeping your word, it's through delivery. And so we'll see that the ones that through time and through delivery will earn the trust of the people, essentially, their communities. And again, the big thing is communication. That's one of the biggest barriers, I would say. The technological platforms and communication methodologies for NFTs is horrible, horrible. When I went Discord my first time, I was like, what is this? It was crazy. It's for coders and gamers, and so yeah, technology is going to be both the biggest barrier, but the easiest way for us to actually get all this distributed. We just have to solve some of the problems, or unlock some of the secrets. And once that happens, we get more mass adoption. NFTs are just gonna explode. And just a quick word on NFTs. I don't know if people realize, this is a communication thing too, there are fungible, non-fungible tokens. So NFTs, the word itself, I think has a limited shelf life. We're gonna see more digital collectibles, digital assets, much more easily identifiable as, okay, that I can understand. I can understand this is a collectible that's digital that I wanna earn. And we have upgradable, programmable digital assets. Those 4 words in sequence are gonna be game changers for everything. So that's kind of where the technology that we're underlying as a base layer is so, so powerful. We're so excited for that.
Mohammed, when you look outside of what you're doing, you look at what everybody else is doing, what are the innovations that excite you? What are the things you look at and think, wow, that's really gonna do something big?
Well, basically, like what
Genesis Arc.
yeah, because he put it in a very good angle. That and another thing, I think the most recent people talk about Soulbound token, so that probably also will actually give another game changer how people see things, or NFT as a whole. For me, we welcome any sort of innovation, because we know as long as we can facilitate whatever that is. Has been or going to be a new thing, we can deliver, So for us, we don't limit ourselves or just to, okay, now we talk about how you can angle this NFT probably as a collectible or limitation or a certain period of time that, after this is as expiry. We don't do that. For me, I've never put a limit to, okay, I probably enjoy or looking forward for some new innovation. But the bigger question is, how do we be part of that? How can we facilitate that? That always has been our question, It's not about what is the new innovation. If there is, how do we facilitate that? Because we're a marketplace, right? So we need to be able to facilitate whatever new innovation that is about to come, yeah.
Paul, just some quick closing remarks. When we sit here next year at this time, what are we going to be talking about with NFTs? What are the big things that you think we need to be on the lookout for? What's exciting you looking ahead to the next 12 months? Yeah.
The most exciting thing about NFTs is that I guess I'm going to use the example of the Ethereum merge. When it happened, it was so super successful that nobody felt anything. So the technology shouldn't be the main focus. It should just be a tool to achieve what you want. And so I believe that businesses should be treating their customers better, being more attentive, they should be more profitable, they should be able to roll out more products and services because the underlying technology has made it better, has unlocked so many bottlenecks, has removed so many bottlenecks. Just like the internet, like you don't talk about the internet, you talk about all the amazing companies that built websites that serve customers better because of the internet was the engine. So the most exciting thing is that just know that, yeah, it shouldn't be scaring you. It should just be something that eliminates so many bottlenecks and unlocks for you. So yeah.
Great. All right, some great closing words there. Don't be scared. Right? Yeah, great. All right, thanks, guys. Thanks to Paul, Jin, and to Mohammed.
Philippine Blockchain Week. See you next year.